Mount Olympus, the sacred summit of Greek mythology, where gods once walked above the clouds and thunder itself bowed in silence. To the ancient Greeks, it was more than a mountain. It was the divine heart of the cosmos, the fortress of order and law that held the universe together. Yet even here, in the shimmering halls of immortality, perfection was an illusion. Beneath the gold and marble of Olympus burned two forces no god could contain: the irresistible pull of desire and the unrelenting fury of war. From that tension came one of the most dangerous love stories ever told: the secret affair of Aphrodite, goddess of love, and Eros, god of war. A myth that revealed not just betrayal among gods, but the eternal struggle between passion and control, beauty and destruction, love and chaos. At the very heart of this cosmic drama is Aphrodite. To truly understand her role and motivations in this transgression, we must first delve into her unique and violent origins, which fundamentally set her apart from the other Olympians. Her emergence narrative, as recorded by the poet Hesiod in his seminal work, Theogony, defines her essence. She was not born in any conventional sense. She did not emerge from the womb of a titan or a goddess. She arose fully formed and supremely beautiful, from the sea foam, the Aphros, that churned violently around the severed genitals of the primordial sky god Uranus. This act was a foundational episode of cosmic violence, occurring when Uranus was castrated by his own vengeful son, the titan Cronus. This brutal genesis is absolutely crucial to her character. It marks her as a force of nature that is older, more primal, and more dangerously elemental than the structured political world of Zeus and his siblings who later dominated Olympus. She was beauty born directly from violence, pleasure distilled from a moment of profound cosmic pain. She was the personification of attraction itself, the irresistible, immoral cosmic force that ensures the continuation of all life, from the lowest plants and animals to the highest, most detached gods. Her domain was immense and complex, encompassing not just gentle, romantic love, but also overwhelming lust, intoxicating beauty, profound, maddening longing, and the sweet, all-consuming bliss of physical union. She was a power so immense and so fundamentally disruptive that even Zeus, the king of the gods and ruler of the new cosmic order, feared her influence, worried that the male gods would wage endless, destructive war among themselves for her hand. Her very existence was a threat to the stability of the Olympian state. The Greeks themselves understood her complexity and ambivalence, a duality which they reflected in the different cult titles under which she was worshipped. There was Aphrodite Urania, or Celestial Aphrodite, who represented a more spiritual, idealized, and philosophical form of love, often associated with intellectual connection and transcendent beauty, the love that inspires artists and poets. But there was also Aphrodite Pandamos, which translates to Aphrodite of all the people, or common Aphrodite, the goddess of raw physical desire and purely carnal pleasure, the force that draws bodies together regardless of reason or consequence. Her affair with Eros falls squarely into this latter, more chaotic category. To contain this wild, destabilizing energy, a force capable of toppling kingdoms and sparking global conflicts, as the catalyst for the Trojan War would later prove, a political and social solution was devised by the Olympian patriarchy. Zeus arranged her marriage to his son, Hephaestus, the god of the forge. On the surface, it was a mismatch of epic proportions that spoke volumes about the Olympic hierarchy's priorities. Aphrodite was ethereal beauty, effortless grace, and spontaneous, untamable passion. Hephaestus was terrestrial, a being of soot and fire, defined by his hard labor, his physical deformities, and his methodical, introverted genius. He was the god of craftsmanship, invention, and technology, the very embodiment of the civilizing force that transforms raw, uncontrolled nature into objects of purpose and exquisite beauty. The marriage was a symbolic attempt by the patriarchal order of Olympus to bind the untamable force of female desire, physis, to the structured, productive, and controllable world of male civilization, nomos. But as the myth so powerfully demonstrates, such fundamental, elemental forces cannot be so easily domesticated or legislated by a marriage contract. Hephaestus could offer her magnificent, custom-forged jewelry, a home built of bronze, and a steadfast, devoted heart, but he could not offer her the thrill of the unpredictable, the intoxicating, life-affirming danger her primal nature fundamentally craved. His stability was, to her, a suffocating boredom. Her opposite, and therefore her inevitable obsession, was Ares. If Hephaestus represented the meticulous, patient creation of civilization and the enduring power of skill, Ares was the chaotic, violent impulse that tears it all down in a single, unthinking moment of rage. He was the son of Zeus and Hera, a true Olympian by birth, yet he was notoriously despised by both of his parents and by many of his siblings. In a famous and telling passage in Homer's Iliad, Zeus looks upon a wounded Ares and declares him the most hateful of all the gods who hold Olympus, for you love nothing but strife and wars and fighting. The Greeks made a critical and highly moral distinction between him and his half-sister Athena. Athena was the goddess of Maius, of cunning intelligence in warfare, of the noble and organized defense of the city-state, a god of strategic victory. Ares, by contrast, was the incarnation of Lyssa, the state of berserker rage and bloodlust. He was the patron of mindless slaughter for its own sake, the stormer of walls, the lover of the chaotic din of battle, the personification of pure, violent, unthinking instinct. In the sophisticated, democratic, and often political society of Athens, he was a necessary evil, representing the darker side of human nature, but a deeply unpopular and dangerous presence. His main cult centers were in the less civilized, more militaristic regions like Thrace. He represented the brute, savage aspect of existence that the other gods, for all their power, sought to control, but secretly feared, because it was chaos itself. The attraction between Aphrodite and Ares, therefore, represents something far deeper than a simple, mundane, adulterous affair. It is a profound mythological exploration of the magnetic, often terrifying, pull between the most fundamental opposites in the universe. It is the cosmic dance of creation and destruction, of sublime, generation-giving beauty drawn inextricably to savage, uncontrollable brutality. For Aphrodite, Ares represented a thrilling, essential escape from her staid and predictable marriage to the gentle craftsman. He was a mirror to her own untamed origins, a force of nature as primal and violent as the castration of Uranus from which she was born. Their union was a moment where the goddess of life-giving pleasure embraced the god of death-dealing pain. For Ares, the god who existed in a world of constant ugliness, pain, and violence, Aphrodite was the ultimate intoxicating prize, a moment of unparalleled beauty and physical pleasure amidst the carnage that defined his very being. Their secret meetings, held in the shadows of Olympus, became a symbolic rebellion against the established order, a powerful testament to the idea that the most potent parts of our nature, the physis, refused to be governed by the laws and customs of society, the nomos. Their connection was a cosmic secret that, according to the Greek worldview, could not remain hidden forever, for all imbalances in the cosmos, especially one that so flagrantly violated the sanctity of the oikos, the household, must eventually be brought into the light and dealt with. The agent of this necessary, if painful, revelation, the meticulous architect of their downfall, was the wronged husband Hephaestus. He was an outsider in the perfect halls of Olympus, often depicted as lame, soot-stained, and socially awkward, an easy object of ridicule for the other, more physically perfect gods. He had been born with a deformity, and in a fit of rage and shame over his appearance, his own mother Hera had cast him from the heights of Olympus. This traumatic history of rejection and profound pain had forged in him a resilient and deeply cunning mind. He was the ultimate outsider, who found his immense value and power not through birthright, physical strength, or effortless beauty, but through his unparalleled, patient, and methodical skill. His true power lay not in his form, but in his genius, in his ability to think, to plan, and to create. He represents the triumph of intellect, patience, and meticulous craftsmanship over both brute physical force and intoxicating, unthinking beauty. Upon learning of the betrayal, some versions of the myth suggest it was Helios, the all-seeing sun god who misses nothing on his daily journey, who first brought the news. Hephaestus did not succumb to a blind, unproductive rage. He did not challenge the mighty Ares to a duel he knew his physical limitations would cause him to lose. Instead, he retreated to his forge, his heart a cold, heavy lump of iron, his mind alight with a calculated, surgical fury. He would craft a response born of his deepest humiliation and his greatest talent, a trap that would use his own unique, enduring art to expose the truth to the entire cosmos and reclaim his lost honor. What Hephaestus created is one of mythology's most potent and enduring metaphors for the power of cleverness over chaos. He set to work at his anvil, the bellows roaring, the fires of his forge burning with a methodical purpose they had never known before. He began to forge a net, but this was no ordinary net of rope or flimsy wire. He crafted it from strands of bronze, which he drew out through magical means to be finer and more ethereal than a spider's web, yet imbued with a divine toughness that made it stronger and more unbreakable than adamant itself. The final creation was a technological marvel, a shimmering, gossamer-like fabric that was all but invisible to the naked eye, relying on a subtle shimmer to hide its deadly strength. It was a work of supreme artistry, a perfect testament to the idea that the greatest traps are not built of brute force, but of subtle, inescapable, and intelligent design. Hephaestus's weapon was not a sword for open combat, but a net for public capture and humiliation. With cold precision, he laid this invisible snare over his own marriage bed, a place that should have been the sacred center of his household, or oikos, but had been utterly desecrated. He then publicly announced to all of Olympus that he was embarking on a journey to the island of Lemnos, a place he held dear. He knew the lovers, blinded by their consuming passion and their arrogance in their own divine power, would waste no time and would soon fall into his meticulously crafted, unbreakable trap. The moment of capture is a pivotal, almost satirical theatrical scene in Greek mythology, famously preserved for posterity when the bard Demodocus recounts the entire episode for Odysseus and the Phaeacians in Book 8 of Homer's Odyssey. Just as Hephaestus had predicted, Ares saw his opportunity and rushed to the house of the forge god. He and Aphrodite, believing themselves safe from all scrutiny and human concern, retired to the bed. In their moment of most intimate connection, the invisible mechanism was sprung. The shimmering net fell in a sudden, silent cascade, enveloping them completely and instantly. It clung to their bodies, a cold, metallic second skin, binding them inextricably together and rendering them utterly helpless. The god of war's immense physical strength was useless. The more he struggled, the tighter the unbreakable bonds became. The goddess of love's powerful allure, which could bend the will of any god or mortal, could offer no escape from the unyielding bronze. They were trapped, exposed, and utterly powerless, a tableau of raw, divine transgression frozen for the judgment of the entire cosmos. Hephaestus did not savor his victory in private. He had merely feigned his journey, and now returned to stand in the doorway of his own bedroom. Instead of rage, he projected a cold, bitter triumph and a profound sense of self-vindication. He did not address the lovers directly, but threw his arms up and cried out to the heavens, demanding the entire Olympian pantheon assemble immediately to bear witness to his shame and the lovers' disgrace. The male gods arrived in a spectacle of divine curiosity. Apollo with his silver bow, Poseidon the earth-shaker, and the fleet-footed Hermes. The goddesses, however, according to Homer's account, stayed away, restrained by a sense of modesty and feminine propriety. What followed was not sympathy for Hephaestus, but a wave of uproarious, side-splitting, divine laughter. The sight of the mighty god of war and the beautiful goddess of love, trapped, naked, and helpless, was the greatest spectacle they had seen in ages. This laughter is a critical element, serving as a powerful act of collective social control. It reduced the terrifying god of war to a figure of farce and publicly stripped the goddess of love of her untouchable dignity. The scene is rich with dialogue, most notably when the witty Apollo slyly asks Hermes if he would trade places with the humiliated Eris, to which Hermes famously replies that he would willingly suffer 3 times the chains to lie beside the golden Aphrodite. In this moment of public humiliation, Hephaestus lamented his fate, decrying his own deformity and his wife's preference for the handsome but destructive Ares, demanding his rightful compensation. The myth of Aphrodite and Ares explores honor, shame, and passion, revealing the Greek understanding of human and divine behavior. When Hephaestus caught the lovers in his trap, the aim was not to destroy them, but to demonstrate the consequences of desire and the importance of cunning and honor. Using superior skill, Hephaestus reasserted his own status, showing the triumph of Techne over brute force. Poseidon intervened as a mediator, ensuring that Ares paid the traditional adulterer's fee, a restitution recognized by Greek audiences and essential to restore social and divine order. The lovers were freed, but stripped of dignity. Aphrodite, overwhelmed with shame, fled to Cyprus, to Paphos, a center of her cult. She bathed in the sea, a ritual that symbolically cleansed her disgrace and restored her divine power. Ares, humiliated yet enraged, retreated to Thrace, channeling his wounded pride into mortal conflicts, proving that even divine pain fuels further chaos in the world. Despite the public exposure, their passion endured. Their bond, strengthened by shared shame, produced children who embodied the union of love and war. Phobos and Deimos personified fear and terror on the battlefield, accompanying their father and spreading panic. Eros, in Greek thought, was a powerful and sometimes cruel force, driving uncontrollable desire in gods and mortals alike. Harmonia, their daughter, symbolized harmony emerging from conflict. Her wedding to Cadmus, founder of Thebes, was a divine attempt to introduce order to the mortal world. Yet Hephaestus, holding his grudge, gifted her a cursed necklace, bringing tragedy to her life and descendants. The necklace haunted the royal house of Thebes, fueling the cycles of Oedipus and Antigone, showing how divine passions reverberate through human history. This myth highlights the inseparable link between love and conflict. Passion carries risk, and desire and violence exist beneath the surface of civilization. Aphrodite and Eris represent the primal energies that drive life, irresistible, unpredictable, and transformative. The story serves as a psychological allegory. Humans struggle with reason and desire, just as gods embody these eternal tensions. Civilization, symbolized by Hephaestus and Olympus, seeks stability, but it cannot fully suppress passion and conflict. Love and rage, creation and destruction, are intertwined. Even suffering and humiliation can deepen bonds, creating resilience and intensity in relationships. Ultimately, the myth endures as more than a tale of divine infidelity. It is a story of the fundamental forces shaping existence, where love and war coexist, and passion is both creative and destructive. It teaches that human experience mirrors the divine. Desire can elevate or devastate, and even in the most ordered societies, untamed energies lurk, ready to break free. Aphrodite and Ares' story is a meditation on the tension between control and impulse, civilization and chaos, reason and appetite. Life's vitality stems from the interplay of extremes. Love, war, shame, and honor are not merely human experiences, but cosmic principles. The story reminds us that chaos and beauty are inseparable, that passion is essential, and that the forces shaping the world are irresistible, unavoidable, and enduring. For more stories that dive into the strange and mysterious corners of history, join me on the channel. You won't want to miss what's coming next.